Dr. Pressley. All right. And certainly we want to welcome Dr. Pressley back. She was here at our last meeting. And at any rate, voter fraud has suddenly moved up to the front. Of course, only deplorables and bitter clingers believe that.
I'm one.
Okay, guys, thank you for having me again. Oh my gosh, who in here was at the presentation I gave last time? All right, well, what we're going to do is mostly just give updates. And I think I have 30 minutes. Is that the plan? More than, oh, all right. Okay, well.
City Council.
Well, kind of just as a recap, in 2014 I ran for the Austin City Council. And what we did was we found them stealing my election with the electronic voting machines. My background is I worked as an engineer at Motorola and advanced micro devices in the semiconductor industry for the last 17 years, and I'll tell you I'm the last person you want to steal an election from with a computer. All right, I know a lot of math. I know how computers work. I actually have 4 patents in computer technology. So, I ran for city council, and I was winning. We had polls that were done, professional polls. I was winning hands down. The little 24-year-old, they moved in my district 2 weeks before the deadline. There's no way he was winning. When the results came out on election night, he somehow beat me 2-1, and I knew that was wrong. You know how you just know something? I knew I won that election. There was no doubt in my mind, so I got up the next morning, kind of dusted myself off, and started reading the election code from top to bottom, and I was looking for one thing. What are the backup records required for electronic voting in the state of Texas? And guess what? God bless the legislature. There's a lot of backup records, paper backup records that are required by law. And guess what? The state of Texas is not keeping them. Oh yeah, and it's being done by the Secretary of State's office in Texas. And I'm going to show you that. Strike 1, strike 2, strike 3, strike 4, strike 5 of the Secretary of State's office in Texas, who is dismantling election integrity in our state. All right? So buckle up. My case is passed. We are in the appeals court right now. We had evidence. We got thrown out of court. And the judge prevented us from getting evidence, and you can't do that in Texas. You can't do a no evidence summary judgment and have prevented evidence from being received. And so we're appealing that. But this is not about my case so much. It's about what's going on in our state and what is our power. Once we know what's broken, then we can fix it, right? We can address it. And as voters and as citizens, we have the power. And I want to remind us all that. Okay, let's kind of walk through this. And Sam, yes, sir.
Do you need the lights turned off?
I think, can y'all see that okay? It's pretty bright, I think, but thank you. So, have you ever wondered what happens to your vote when you vote on an electronic voting machine? Yeah, you wonder what happens to it. So, y'all have the ES&S equipment in Bexar County. How many people are not in Bexar County? Okay, everybody's in Bexar County. So you use the ES&S. It's very similar. It's a touch screen. And in Travis County and in 100 counties across the state, use this called a Hart InterCivic e-slate. And you use this little wheel and you click through these boxes on the ballot. ES&S is a touch screen, so it's a very similar system, just a little bit different mechanism how the vote's captured. But what happens on both cases, both types of equipment, your vote on the machine goes on to what, guess what, a memory card. That's where your votes are stored, all right? And the memory card goes down to the place at the county. Do y'all have substations here? Anybody that are election judges here? Okay, do you have a substation that you take the cards to, or do you take them to the county office?
We take them back to the electronic, or to the elections office.
At the county.
Yeah, and having just gone through that training,
Yeah.
I was told that the system cannot be interrogated by anything or anybody, any way. I said, are you kidding me?
Blah, blah, blah. That's what I say to that, and I'm going to show you. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, when someone tells you how great the electronic voting is, that's what you say. Blah, blah, blah. All right? And I'm going to show you. We caught them in Travis County. We have evidence of how it's being done, and I'm going to show you. Okay? All right, so all the cards go to one place at the county. So if you want to hack an election, do you want to worry about being at the precincts where all these judges are and all the poll watchers are? No, no, no. You want to be at the main county office where all the cards are coming to one place and there's nobody there but them. right? Isn't that great? Okay, so keep that in mind. The cards with all the votes go to one location, and that's where it's happening. Okay? All right. I want to bring this up because this is what I scoured the election code from top to bottom. I read every single page, and I was looking for one thing. What are the backup records for electronic voting? Because the legislature really put some Band-Aids around this thing when it came into play in 2000. We've had electronic voting for 16 years in Texas. Okay? So the first thing you have to have, and these are the different election codes where these things are referenced. You have to have, number one, a computer to add up all those cards. Yeah, it's pretty simple, right? You got to have something that adds up all those results, and it's in different parts of the election code. The second thing, precinct judges, you have to have a precinct return. You have to sign a tape that says what the results are at that location, at that precinct. Sometimes there's merged precincts in one location. Each candidate, what the numbers that they got. Okay? And that's called a precinct return, and it's a tape that's printed before the equipment leaves the building. And why do we do that? In case something happens down at the county office to those memory cards. You have a record of the vote at the location, the judges sign it, and any poll watchers there sign it. That's pretty good, okay? And it's called a precinct return. And it's in different sections of the election code that you gotta have a precinct return. Even for early voting, you gotta have a precinct return. All right, the third record is called a ballot image. Well, a ballot in law is defined by certain things. You gotta have a serial number, you gotta have boxes to the left of the names, you gotta have everybody's name, the date of the election. That's a ballot. And you gotta have an image of that ballot to do a recount. You can print these and you do a manual recount. And that's what we did in our case. And they're in different sections of the election code. So you see, all of the backup records are strewn about in the election code. They're not just in one place. So I had to read the whole thing. Okay? So this is what the ballot looks like. You're supposed to keep an image of that. Well, you see the image when you vote. It's a bitmap from a computer science technology standpoint. You see the ballot when you vote, and the patents say that it can store a ballot image after you vote. Okay? You're supposed to keep it for a recount. And here's the law. We love laws in this state, right? And I'm sure all of you like the law because that's what we're supposed to adhere to, and that's what our counties are supposed to adhere to. This is chapter 66 of the election code, and judges, you get envelopes. You put the records in, and envelope 1, 2, and 3. This is in the election code. It's not just a suggestion, it's a requirement by law. And you have to have the election returns for the precincts in envelope 1. Envelope 2, you have to have the copy of the returns and the early voting list. Oh, look at there. Envelope 2 has to have early voting precinct returns that are signed by judges. Keep that in mind. Envelope 3, the precinct return. So there you go. There's the code. You're looking at it right there. Any question of that's what the law says? There it is. Okay? Oops, it's not moving. There we go. So that's the tapes. Let's talk about ballot images. This is chapter 128 of the election code, and it talks about the computerized voting system standards, and you have to have a computer that shows ballot presentation, vote selection, that's a little wheel, and on y'all's machine you touch it, ballot image storage. Okay, right there. You got to store the ballot for a recount. This is the Texas Secretary of State's own website. Let me see if I can get over here close enough. And it actually defines a ballot image at the very bottom. The ballot as it appears on the direct recording voting system. There's the machine. You see the ballot. You're supposed to keep an image of that ballot. Even the recount code talks about images of ballots cast for a recount. Ballot image, ballot image, ballot image. Even the certification documents say you have to have a ballot image system for a recount and printing of the electronic ballot images. This is a checklist for when the vendors come into the state and say, I want to sell you millions of dollars of equipment. Well, you got to have certain things you can do, and that's one of them. That's the checklist right there. Well, the Secretary of State's office is given waivers to law. And they say, don't worry, you don't have to print those tapes. You don't have to print them for early voting. In counties that do countywide polling, y'all don't have to print them at all. That's a bit of a problem because the law says you got to do it. And it's a backup record. And then the waiver says, don't worry, don't print the tapes, which is over here. And then they say, well, don't worry, ballot images remain on the machines for recounts until you ask for them. We asked for them in our lawsuit. The county couldn't produce them. They told the judges not to print the tape because they got a waiver from the Secretary of State. They told them, we can't give you a ballot image. Just trust what the computer said, Dr. Pressley. And I said, nope, we're filing a lawsuit. Okay? This is what, so I'm going to tell you, I'm going to back up. Strike one for Mr. Ingram at the Secretary of State's office telling people they don't have to print the tapes. I just showed the law. Can a bureaucrat waive law? No, they can't. There's no statute that says they can waive law. Can a bureaucrat tell you to go, don't worry, go 95 on I-35 when you want to? They can't tell you to break law. Okay? So, number two, strike against the Secretary of State. They say this is a ballot image. That doesn't look like any ballot I know. There's no boxes. This is it expanded. Do you even see the date of the election on that? It's called a cast vote record. Holy cow. There's not even the date of the election on there. This election was in 2014. There's not even December 16, 2014. There's no date. There's no serial number. Where does this come from? In my lawsuit, when I asked where did this data come from, they wouldn't let me see it. They wouldn't let me see it. This is not a ballot. It's not an image of a ballot. It's not even an image file. It's a data structure printed one per page to a template defined by the vendor. And they're calling this a ballot. Basically, this is the data from the main computer many steps past the voter that could be hacked. Okay? It's not the original. Now, that's not a cast vote record, but strike number two, Mr. Ingram, the Secretary of State, says that's a valid image. No, it's not.
Does that show who voted on there?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't show who voted. You got to have a secret ballot.
Well, it shows the device.
Shows that where, the device in the polling place. But my name's not on it, and I was in the election. Right? We're in the appeals court right now, in the third court of appeals, and we're one of the judges in the appeals court. This was talked about in our oral argument. And the judge on the appeals panel said, well, if I'm looking at this, how do I know Ms. Pressley was even on the ballot to that voter? Oh, the other side was not happy. They were like, oh, that hurt. Yeah, it's not a ballot. You can
Somebody's vote.
That's right. It's a PDF file that could be just, you know how Adobe Acrobat works, you can just insert pages? Well, that's what this could be. You got it. Okay? So, that's Hart Intercivic. I'm going to talk about ES&S, and this is new information from last time I came. ES&S is even worse than Hart Intercivic. So what y'all have for your ballot image is even worse. We did a recount in Morris County, and this is what the ballot image looks like for ES&S when you do a recount. You can't even tell where the ballot starts and stops. The guy that was doing the recount is Cody Womack, right here. There were only 2 races on this ballot that he was recounting. You can see his name here. So there were only 2 names, but you can't tell. That's not a ballot. And actually, this file, the county couldn't even print it. They had to send the memory stick over the mail back to the vendor. Good Lord is right. Good Lord. Where's the integrity? Again, Mr. Ingram, strike number 2. This is a ballot image. It's not true. It's not the law. All right. Now, what you were saying about, oh, nothing can be corrupted, right? Well, in our lawsuit, we didn't have the image, we didn't have the tape. So we said we want the audit log of the main computer because we didn't believe the results. So when we got the audit log, what we found was shocking. The computers are not connected to the internet, but they don't have to be. All you have to do is get a touch point. And so what happened was, in our case, there were mobile ballot boxes, those memory cards. There were corruption errors on election night when the equipment was being downloaded, the results were being downloaded. Do you want to see the word corrupt on your audit log of your main computer that counts your votes? It's not good. And interesting, it was the corruption was the first error. Because if you want to flip votes, you got to be in there right at the very beginning and change everything after. And that's the case. Corrupt mobile ballot box. So all you have to do is have a corrupt card, plug it in, and boom, it downloads the program. And everything after that is suspect. So there's no tape, there's no image, and now the tabulation is corrected. Blah, blah, blah. Right? You got it. Okay. Corruption errors were found all on election night. And that one corrupt card, number 603, was very interesting. We got the audit log of where that card had been. That card was lot number 603, the corrupt card, was logged in on 11/21 in 2014, and it wasn't logged out until 10 days later. What happened for 10 days? Where was that card? Who had access to it? Was it logged in continuously for 24 hours? My computer logs off after 15 minutes. Okay, again, same card, the first corrupt one. Logged in on 12/1, logged out on 12/10. That's early voting. It was missing during early voting. Where was it? Yeah, so blah, blah, blah. Okay, all right. So in our case, we wanted to get the memory card 603. The judge would not let us get to it. This is the order from the Judge Mills, the Discovery Control Plan, and he said, Travis County shall not be required to produce proprietary information or inspect the recording machines, the e-slates, the software or hardware, in conjunction with the e-slate. So not only did he say we had no evidence, he prevented us from getting it. And you can't do that in Texas. That's why we're appealing. So we're in the appeal process waiting on a ruling. Yes, sir.
And the Secretary of State be impeached?
The Secretary of State serves at the pleasure of the governor. We're getting to that. We're getting to that. That's the pressure point. That's the pressure point. Okay, guys, so remember 3 records have to be there for electronic voting. Well, guess what? All of the electronic voting machines in the state of Texas cannot keep a ballot image. Not one. Not your equipment, not our equipment, nobody. And we were promised that 15 years ago by the legislature, and we don't have it. You're supposed to have a tape to print out what the results are. The Secretary of State's giving waivers, don't worry, don't print them. And now, the tabulation we found was corrupted. So where's the integrity of the election? At least in Travis County, there isn't. We have had, yes sir.
It's everywhere.
You got it, yes sir.
But is there any law or regulation preventing voting machines from being connected to the internet or police form anywhere, anyhow?
Yes.
There is a law that says it may not be connected. It doesn't say shall. But you don't need to be connected. When you've got a corrupt card, you just put it in.
The card doesn't do anything except record until the votes that are already pre-recorded on the card.
Well, only if it works properly, it's correct. You could have a card. These cards are strewn about all over the county office. They're not even taking care of where these cards are.
A card could be pre-election votes on
It could, or it could have a program, an executable program that says, I want to change this election to be this percent instead of what the real voters say. Right?
You can still deliver a virus into these cards.
That's a good term, deliver a virus. Okay, so let's take a big picture. What's going on around, hang on a sec.
Well, I vote by mail.
We're going to get there. Hang on, we're going to get there. We're going to get there. Okay, so let's think about how big this is across the state. So on election day, there's 2 kinds of voting. You can vote, there's a county-wide polling location like Travis County has, and you can vote anywhere in the county at any precinct. Now, you don't have to vote at your home precinct, okay? And you guys have to vote at your home precinct, right, on election day. There's county-wide polling and there's precinct polling. County-wide, they're giving waivers for tapes. My phone's ringing, sorry. These are the counties that are not printing the early vote, election day tapes. So remember, there's no ballot image. There's no ballot image to go back to. So the tapes are it. It's the only other backup record. There are some counties using countywide that are not getting the waivers. They want their accountability, okay? You've got precinct polling, and I need to put Bexar County here, that you guys are, I think you are printing the tapes here in Bexar County for election day, all right?
Right.
There are some counties, large counties, they're not printing them on election day. So every permutation possible, so where's the consistency of law? It doesn't exist. Now let's think about early voting. This is the big hairball. Most counties don't print the tapes early. Anybody here an election judge for early? Do you print the tapes early?
No.
No. That's a big issue because there's no ballot image, right? Early voting is very problematic, very insecure. So let's kind of raise this up a little bit. Let's think about when you can vote and when is it most secure, the way the system is right now. You can vote paper ballot by mail. The computer tabulates it, but you have a paper ballot to go back to for a recount. Early voting, electronic, the computer tabulates it. Well, there's no image and there's no tape. Election day, the computer tabulates it. There's no image, but you have a tape in Bexar County that backs up the result. So when is your vote most secure? You got it. When's it least secure? When are we told to vote? Don't you ever vote early again. Yes, ma'am?
When you were here the last time, when I went to work the next time, I sent an email to all of my friends as to what took place here, and encouraged them to pass on the information and do not vote early in any election.
Thank you. You got it. This is a problem. Okay. I had a woman, this is about paper ballot counties. We're not one of those here. I had a woman up in Tarrant County in Fort Worth. She was 90 years old. She came up to me, she goes, Dr. Pressley, the Lord told me not to vote early. I said, he was right. He was right, you're listening. Okay, all right, here's another strike against the Secretary of State's office. At the end of the primary, the next day, March 2nd this year, the Secretary of State's office, Keith Ingram, Director of Elections, sent a waiver to all counties in the state. Don't worry, don't do the post-election audits. You're supposed to audit at least 3 precincts. Hand count them. And he gave a waiver not to do it. I know it. There's a consistent pattern here. Mr. Ingram is dismantling the election integrity of Texas.
Is he a Democrat?
No. It's not party, guys. I want us to understand that. I call it the money corruption party. Okay? All right. Okay. So Mr. Ingram, a month ago, it seems like tapes are important, right? Audit logs are important, and ballot images are important. Well, a month ago, Mr. Ingram tried to get rid of all 3 of those for November. And I'm going to show you. And when he was asked why he was changing the administrative code right before November, he said, we're just cleaning up the code. No real significant changes. And I want to walk you through this, and you tell me if that's correct. Okay? So here's the certification requirements for voting machines. And here's a graphic number 1, and that's this thing that I showed you before. He tried to eliminate the graphic that had ballot image systems. Okay, these are the changes that he wanted. This is the original. Wow, trying to get rid of ballot images. I'm going to need 5 minutes. I'm sorry, I'm going to tell you, I'm sorry. Hang on. All right. Don't worry, it's just cleaning up the code. He tried to get rid of the audit logs. This is the election administrative code, and it has to have a continuous feed printer for the audit log for errors. He tried to redact that and get rid of it for November. No printer for audit logs for November. Don't worry, we're just cleaning up the code. Number 3, you have to print early voting tapes. Envelope number 2. He tried to put a change that said at no time should an early voting clerk print a results tape. Don't worry, we're just changing, no significant changes. We put a stop to this. We had hundreds of people call the governor and the lieutenant governor and elections committee, and he was told to stop. We are not making any changes before November. And the elections committee members were not aware of what he was doing. No kidding. This is Mr. Ingram.
Where he should be.
He should be. We're working on it.
Is he getting money?
Interesting question. So with all of this, we're watching. We're watching now. Before we weren't. Okay? So we are going to have honest and fair elections because we're approaching it in multiple facets. We've got a lawsuit. We've got grassroots are being educated. We're contacting our legislators. We have a state senator that has now come out in the press conference, and he said you cannot do a legally sufficient recount in Texas because electronic voting without a paper trail that's not being allowed, you cannot trust it. Okay? Is a state senator. We have another state senator that came out against Mr. Ingram's changes, and we stopped it, and he said we need more paper backup records, not fewer. Okay? That's what we need. We also have been focused on the governor. Anybody here at the Republican convention in May? Okay, yes, I was a delegate. We voted to add 3 things to the plank for the Republican Party of Texas. We said we want Secretary of State to strictly enforce printing of the tapes for early and election day. But nothing's happened. The waivers are still there. That was in May. Nothing's happened. So what we did recently, we held a press conference last week. What was today, Saturday? It was on Wednesday. And we had 1,000 hand-signed letters, some of you may have signed it, from people all across the state telling the governor, we want tapes printed for early voting and election day. We want all post-election audits to be completed, and a couple other things. We had 1,000 signed signature pages that we hand carried to Greg Abbott. We gave it to Strauss, we gave it to Patrick, we gave it to all the elections, most of the elections committee members. And these pictures were taken by Mr. Keller. He did a great job. 1,000 hand-signed letters. Not just from Travis County, not just from Bexar County, from 104 cities across the state of Texas. This is serious business. Everyone in the state, libertarians, Democrats, Republicans, Green Party, we all want honest and fair elections, and we want our backup records. We want our backup records. So the governor is making a decision right now. Do we print the tapes or not? We want to print it, damn it.
Yeah.
We're done. Mr. Ingram needs to go. So what can we do? Do not vote early. I've got letters for Greg Abbott, and I want you to, I've got one. If you want to sign one, please do, and I'll pass them out. Get on my email list. If you're not on my email list, I'm going to pass that out too. Please get on my email list, and we'll keep you up to date. And we do call the actions to call. We got this thing stopped for November, right? Because we had hundreds of people call. It was because of y'all. And if you're not on my list, get on it. I need poll watchers at Central Count here in Bexar County. If you want to be a poll watcher, let me know. We're doing the training very recently, okay? We're doing it coming up in the next week. You can testify. There's going to be a big fight at the Capitol next week in 2017. All the laws that I showed you, they're going to gut them. And we're not going to let it happen. We want more strict laws, okay? I need you to come. Y'all are close to Austin. I need you to come at hearings and be there and get on my list. And then you can help contribute. My husband and I are $80,000 in debt for this lawsuit. We're at $250,000 in our lawsuit. And it's the first in the state. It's the first in the country. and we need help. So I have signed, I have stamped envelopes. If you want to send me a check, I have them in the back, and we need your help. But thank you, and I'm just so grateful to be here. Thank you.
Well, it's great to have Dr. Pressley back. You know, we could probably spend a couple hours, and I wish we could, but unfortunately, we have a short time frame. As far as poll watchers, Dr. Pressley, I think, Jack, didn't you go down to the central office to watch what they were doing?
Yes,
And they put you in the penitentiary, didn't they?
Well, Jack's part of the problem if he was there.
yes, I saw a few things going, this 10, 15 years ago, twice. I was thrown in jail because I was supposedly trespassing when I was actually doing my job as a poll watcher, and I was acquitted. So, yes.
Yeah. So,
We train people how to do it and what to say so that you don't get arrested.
Yeah.
And so we're going to have that in the back.
Dr. Pressley I'm sure will be around to answer questions because we've got to be fair to our other speakers. Dr. Pressley, can you stick around for a while?
Absolutely.
All right.